Welcome back to the Hard But Worth It podcast. My name's Kirk. This is Mitch, and we are with Icon Coaching. But today we've been hanging out at the GrowTech Fest down in Chico, California. We're in the Sierra Nevada big room. We're actually out in the lobby, so you're hearing a lot of noise because this place has been popping all day. But we're here with Wendy Owens. Wendy, can you give us a little bit of an idea of your role and the company you work with?
Sure. I am the founder and CEO of Hexus Biomass, and we produce a giant perennial grass that substitutes for wood and fossil fuel-based raw materials in many different applications, everything from wood to biofuels, furniture, paper, textiles, things like that.
Yeah, so you're here for the Where Are They Now segment of the conference, and we're in 2023. So the Where Are They Now, it implies that you were somewhere then, and it was earlier then. So take us back to the earlier then. I think you had a connection here with the GrowTech Fest event, and that was a pitching moment. But now today, you're obviously somewhere further down the road. There's a gap. Tell us a little bit about that journey. And
yeah, the gap's about 4 years because we had those 2 COVID years. I think it was 2019 when I did the pitch here at GrowTech Fest, actually at the Ray. I think it was the other theater place, and where I was just on the verge of getting our first pilot supply agreement and just on the verge of getting our first grant. And I had one person working with me. So very brand new in this whole process.
Wow. And then obviously fast forward, but two survival, COVID part 1, COVID part 2, and then maybe a COVID part 3. And now you're here in 2023 and you're obviously doing better.
We're doing well. Yes,
you're doing well.
Yeah.
You survived.
We survived. Yeah.
You survived for sure. But so from that to now, how do you compare? What are you doing today?
From then to now, the industries have changed. Right. So everyone's much more into this bioeconomy and it's really a commodities economy. And people have realized that this is not software and SaaS and things like that we're really looking at commodities coming out of the agricultural sector and how we change the way that we look at raw materials, where they come from, how they're produced, how many times they're shipped, can they be recycled? And so that's come up a long way since I started this company 5 years ago, to really have people having a much better understanding of having to look all the way up and down the supply chain. So scope 1, 2, and 3, you might hear about in the news. And that's been to our tremendous benefit as a function of it.
Now, a lot of entrepreneurs will report back that in those first 5 years of building a company, they find that they're actually building themselves as well. They're learning all kinds of stuff.
So this is my 4th company, actually. So I've done this before, but I've never done anything to this degree or this scale before, and certainly not in an agricultural raw material commodities product. So it's just been a huge learning curve, but it's been very satisfying as well. I don't like to revisit things. I like to do things that are new all the time. And so it's really, for me, taught me a lot about patience, because the breeding up of our plant and selectively breeding our plant to be what it is today took a long time. And I was actually bootstrapping it for a while as a clinical scientist as well, so that I could, still pay the bills and still contribute to the family. But that took a lot of character, right? It was kind of like living in 2 split lives. There was one that part-time with this scientist stuff, and then the other was, running this business. So I think that for me, I've changed, I've grown, my children have grown older, my responsibilities have shifted as they got a little older, and now can, they've helped and supported, and they've kind of grown with it. I've grown with it too. So, yeah.
So what are some of those specific challenges that you faced along the way?
Specifically, I think being believed that someone who does not have an agricultural background or a background in commodities, though a background in materials, gaining that sort of gravitas and expertise, that's been challenging. People have kind of been like, oh yeah, that's a cute idea, but a lot of people have tried that. You're never going to make it work. So that was this, people sort of in your face, like, yeah, that won't work. Some people just absolutely, no, that's not going to work. I would say also COVID was a bit challenging because as a sole founder, it was very hard to find other people to help out, right? Those 2 years of trying to
really makes you alone. It amplifies that whole problem.
It does amplify the loneliness. So that's any entrepreneur will tell you there are just these dire moments of loneliness where you're leading and you have a vision and you've got to bring everybody along to that vision. And I think the women don't raise as much money as male founders, right? It's particularly individual founders. And it's still true. Very, very true. So I think I have to be more than perfect in a way. And I've had mentors tell me that, look, you got to be more than perfect. You really have to know your stuff. Not so much a challenge. I know my stuff. That's not it. But it's just, I don't want to like have that in the front of my mind when I'm going out and pitching and trying to raise funds and trying to make a difference. I just kind of say, okay, that's outside my control. And so there's a lot of, that's outside my control sort of thought processes you have to go through as an entrepreneur.
So how did you convert unbelievers to believers, right? You initially, they're saying, yeah, everyone's tried that, or people have tried that. You're no different. You didn't have a background in it. So you had a lot of people saying all the reasons why it wouldn't work. But then at some point, people started to believe you. What did you do to cause them to begin to believe you? Like, how did you show up in that?
Action all the time.
Results.
Getting results, having data, applying for multiple grants and having people do an assessment like the DOE. We've had 2 big DOE grants now. Therefore, they've had to do a big technological assessment for us. And as a function of that, once we got that, it was like, literally the world changed because we had someone saying, yep, this is good. We believe in this stuff. We've done the technological assessment. But I had to, show up humbly and try and get speaking opportunities and so forth. But it was just kind of just being very consistent in keeping to show up and make progress every single day.
Yeah. A lot of times we find in the journey of entrepreneurs breaking through moments, there's these peaks and these little dips where we would say those dips are usually invitations to exit, but not exit for a sale, maybe to quit.
Right.
They're opportunities to leave, right? It's hard. And maybe, is it worth it? That's the question. Is it worth it? At some point though, you probably faced, a level of decision-making where you said, okay, I'm either gonna move out and move on to something else, or I'm gonna be all in. Did you have a moment like that?
Yeah. So when I started the company, I started as an LLC, knowing that I was going to invest my own money and my family money, that I would need the tax write-off to really help out with that, right? So there was a strategy associated with the potential for, like you say, just having to step away. I had to do a lot of research and I had to do a lot of customer discovery early on. Is this going to work? Is this feasible? Is the world ready for this? So because it was my 4th time around, I'd kind of been through the mistakes of the past, so to speak, that looking what really makes a good company and what would make a successful company. So I had a little bit of advantage in this one. But nonetheless, I had to be very careful in my assessment and very honest with myself in my assessment of the value of this to the world and to individual companies, and my key customers being people who procure raw materials. So, yeah.
What do you love about being a CEO?
Oh, I love making the decisions. I love having and I love making decisions based on, data and information in my gut and things like that. It's just kind of where I thrive personally.
Why? What do you love about it?
It's intellectually stimulating, for one. I mean, I'm always using all of my brain basically, and all the different skills and all the experience that I've had that just never quits. There's always some piece of experience I've had over my life that I'm able to bring to the job in one way or another.
Yeah. How do you deal with two parts to this? One is, how do you deal with the situation where you make a decision and it doesn't work?
Oh, it doesn't work. It's fine.
Move on.
Yeah, just move on.
Just make a new decision,
yeah,
right?
It's a mistake. It's a learning experience.
Awesome.
I mean, again, that's what it is.
Do you find that there's usually a difference between making daily decisions or decisions that are where you can let the data do the work for you? The right decision actually emerges. And then there's the decisions that are higher stakes, or where there isn't a right decision. The data helps you get rid of wrong, but you're still left with too big of a pile, right? How do you walk through making really high stakes decisions where there isn't a right answer presented?
It really takes preparation. You have to be prepared for that moment when you have to make that decision. So you have to plan and learn and gather that data and do a little bit of the tea leaf reading, honestly. So there is some sort of gut to it. And just, I like to be very prepared and knowledgeable about things.
How do you prepare for that? What does that look like?
Well, I read the newspaper every day, or two, 3 different newspapers every day. I read the trade magazines. I look at financial forecasts for different raw materials. I'm a real student of history. Mm-hmm. My degree is in classical studies, so nothing near what I've done in my life. It's been not a straight line from there. But you need to look back at history and see where the industries come from, and then you can sort of figure out where things are going.
So speaking of history, you've done this 3 other times. This is your 4th, right? So if you go back to that entrepreneur that was functioning, I don't know how many years ago, but say 10, 15 years ago, during one of these first or second things you did, right? What would you tell her? What does she need to know? What would you say from the knowledge you have now and the preparation you've done now? What would you want to say to her?
Believe in yourself. Yeah, because that's what you have to do as an entrepreneur. You know, that you're pioneering to some degree. Whether it's a small thing that you're doing with and I know, not putting down apps or software, but it's the smaller impact. Or if you're having a bigger impact, like we're really changing the raw materials industry. It's just really, I would tell her to believe in herself. Just take it easy, believe in yourself.
So if we spin forward back to current time, to the now, and where does this CEO need to hear that message? What project are you working on right now where you need to hear that from yourself?
The fundraising. Yeah. Honestly, we are in deep due diligence with some very big funds, and should we get some funding from them, it will be very exciting. These will be like big global announcement kind of things. And the due diligence is hard, and you have to realize that all those questions that they're asking to be educated. And some days it gets really frustrating.
So what does believing in yourself look like in that situation?
Just pulling on the past experience, knowing that this has worked before, it should work again. And then sort of an extreme level of patience and lots of early morning workouts and walks in the woods and things like that.
Have you noticed over the previous 3, maybe we'll wrap with this question here, but over the previous 3, have you noticed, are you doing them still today, or have they kind of one ended, then you go to the next and then the next, and now you're in your 4th?
Yeah. So they've ended. They've ended. We're not doing it.
So have they kind of built on each other where they've
absolutely
grown? Yeah. Explain that a little bit.
Well, my first company, I started out of graduate school. And you could say I was wholly clueless about running a company. It was a good idea, but it ultimately, I oversaturated the market, and then that kind of fell apart. And the next company was 12 years and 33 patents and lots of good work with big companies. Then that I had the wrong co-founder. Let's just say things went sideways hard. And then, yes, so absolutely, it's the experience that builds on itself. It's the things like understanding tax law and accounting and legal setups and HR and things like that, which once you get to this point in your 4th company, with all of that, that's just easy. That's just kind of background, right? That's not the stuff you stress over anymore. What you're really stressing over is achieving profitability now.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I love that story because it highlights that we think of all these anomalies, all the unicorns and all this stuff. And one of the anomalies is the tech entrepreneur that had a big exit in their 20s. And it's just not the way it works. The average age of a successful entrepreneur is 45.
Right.
It takes a couple decades to figure out what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know there's Forbes 30 under 30s that I know and I adore them. But the big impact comes when you get older and really have that experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for spending time with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
I hope you get all the funding that you deserve.
Thank you very much.